Pretty does it look?
My lips are gone.
You don't want to see the flaws and the tape on the ceiling. I don't know how many receptions we've shot that has tape on the ceiling. My top 3 I like it.
Now I gotta get more excited. Take a big breath.
For the elbow.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh, I never knew that really worked that good. This is the hardest part of the whole video, saying hello.
3.
Hey guys! Oh yeah! We nailed it that time.
If you don't know us, I'm Ashley.
And I'm Ashley.
And welcome to our little place on the internet.
Yes. We have a lot of places on the internet.
This is the start of our wedding series.
KB Wedding.
Wedding. Something about tips, like wedding help.
Help me! I'm engaged. Wait. Help!
I'm engaged!
Yes!
This is a 10 video series, and this is the first of the 10. We're using the hashtag help I'm engaged because that's probably how you're feeling. Like, help me, I'm freaking engaged. What do I do now?
After you, of course, post your Facebook status.
And you're super excited, and you're like, yeah, I have a ring. I don't have a ring.
You gotta go get your nails done just so you can get that really nice ring picture. We've all been there. Well, all of us have been married.
Someday, maybe. You're like, oh, now what?
You gotta collect all your marbles. Where do you start? And that's kind of what we're here today to tell you about.
This is to help you and to hopefully have you better understand what really you should be looking for without those wedding books that you go buy at Barnes & Noble that give you like the lists of things to ask your vendor. I'm sorry, put those aside. Those are not realistic questions. A lot of them are like, hey Ashley, what camera do you use?
Oh, a Canon 3D 5742 2.
That's what it's gonna sound like to you. You really don't care about that. You should care about what the photographer does and their passion and their style. There's real things that you should think about when picking your wedding photographer, and we are here to help you with that. Who better to hear it from than photographers themselves? Without further ado, let's jump right in. Our 5 tips starts now.
Our first one is priorities. What are your priorities for your wedding day? Talk about our top 3. What are your top 3 priorities for weddings?
If I was getting married, because I dream about this, my boyfriend's probably gonna watch and be like, my top 3 priorities if I was getting married and planning my wedding would be probably first a photographer, but that's because I'm a photographer. But I would be literally hiring my dream photographer because every decision that I'm gonna be making, I'm gonna be thinking about how this is gonna look in pictures. It's like, that sounds so horrible, but it's not. Like, your wedding is a dream. You have fantasized about this day since, I don't know, you were 3, and you need it to be documented in a way that, what is this? You need it to be documented in a way that really showcases your vision and what you've been fantasizing about for 20 plus years. I mean, photography is my top priority, no brainer. My second priority, I think, would be venue. Venue will also make or break it.
Yeah.
Which is why for me, picking a photographer makes sense first because they can help me pick my venue. Mm-hmm. If I have a venue in mind, I can reach out to my photographer and say, this is what I'm thinking. What do you think it's going to be like when you shoot? What's the mood going to give off? Is it gonna be moody? Is it gonna be dark? Is it gonna be light? Is it gonna be romantic? Your photographer can help you because that light is really gonna show that story more than anything else. So I think that's why photographer is number 1 for me. Then venue. I think my third is gonna be my bouquet because my bouquet is gonna have my flowers and it's gonna showcase it in a romantic and a pretty way, and it's really gonna help to capture that vision that I've been envisioning. So those are my top 3 priorities. What would yours be if you were to get married again?
As most of you may or may not know, that I've been married for 5 years, and I got married before the whole Pinterest craze came about, so I wasn't like, you know, my wedding wasn't something extravagant. I would have chose to hire a actual photographer because I did it. I had my bridesmaids shoot my wedding. I was actually like during the pictures, I was kind of guiding my photographer bridesmaid into what to do. So I would have loved to have somebody that I would have trusted, and I could actually hang some things around my house. You know, my first priority is definitely hiring a photographer. Definitely hiring one. My second priority would be having a small, intimate wedding. Of course, you know, in an intimate venue and something, you know, I wouldn't be really worried about the budget for my venue, you know, if it was a smaller wedding and I could actually spend more money on that photographer that I want and you know, the other things if you have a smaller wedding. And really I enjoyed having not very many people there because I could focus on myself and my husband that day. So I would say that would be my second priority, is having a small, intimate wedding. And then my third priority, if I'm not thinking because I'm hungry, probably a videographer.
That might come above my bouquet, actually. Yeah. Thanks for that.
You're welcome.
Just made my wedding day a little more expensive. So now that we've talked about what our top 3 priorities for our weddings are, you should write down your top 3 priorities. Writing it down is going to keep you kind of like sticking to them.
Yep.
There you go again.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
Picking your top 3 priorities and writing them down is going to keep you accountable to stick to those priorities, because if you end up spending all of this money on linens and decorations and centerpieces and florals, and your florals aren't in your top 3 priorities, you just put a big portion of your budget into florals and don't have much left for your photography when that was your number 1 priority. And before you know it, you can't afford the photographer that you wanted because you didn't cut your budget in other places that aren't as important to you. So the photographer that you end up deciding to get, you end up skimping on. You can't get that day back. And those wedding pictures are your representation of that day. That's what you took from it. And you don't like your wedding photos, you can't get it back. So that's something you should definitely budget for. If it's in your top 3 priorities, get the best of the best. If your venue is priority number 1 and you can be a little flexible with your photographer, book your venue first. If you tell us you want a romantic and a bright wedding day, and then you see this venue that's gorgeous, but you still want your pictures to be romantic and bright, and then we walk in there and it's like yellow lights with red walls and red carpet, your photographer has very little wiggle room to make your vision that you see in your head come true. So if you tell them your vision, they can help guide you to a venue that is going to mesh really well with what you're thinking. Tip number 2. What are some ways that we can make our photography budget stretch? Because we really want that awesome, best of the best photographer, because our priorities, photography is in the top 3. What are some ways that I can get that photographer that's maybe a little more than I thought I was going to spend?
Cutting that guest list. Oh my goodness. I cannot emphasize that enough. We see brides all the time, literally. And we've seen the biggest weddings ever, 700 guests, who knows how many humans. And then we've seen, 50, 75 guests, even smaller. And we've noticed kind of 2 really big things.
The brides that have the really big weddings because they dreamed of that fairy tale, big, gorgeous event, they end up spending so much of their budget on heads.
Yeah.
Each head costs so much money. I mean, some catering companies, each head's $20.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it ranges from $10 to $50 per head, depending on what you get. If you have 250 guests, that's $2,500 that you're spending on food. Smaller weddings are becoming so much more popular, I think, because it becomes more intimate and you enjoy yourself more. I promise, you will not regret cutting that guest list down. You will not regret it. And it gives you more money to put into things that you actually care about versus barbecue.
And you know that you have to walk around there with your husband now and go say hi to every single person, no matter how social or shy of a person you are. You just have to.
The smaller the wedding, the more happy the couple. And they got to put their budget where they actually wanted to versus barbecue. and macaroni and cheese, which I love.
So moving on, we've got number 3 for kind of our tips on how to choose the right photographer for you and your fiance. This is a 2-part little tip. So I'm gonna start with the first one, which is personality. It's freaking huge. Okay, so we don't allow our brides to book on the spot at a consultation because A, you might love our work and you've had friends that have booked us for their weddings and we shot their weddings and they rave about us, but you personally may think we're wacko and you just do not mesh with us. And that's so important because we're going to be with you every single second of the way. We're going to be with you the day pretty much you get engaged because you're going to go book your photographer. We're going to be there 10 hours of your day. And you're going to sit there, you're going to get dressed in front of us. Like, you're going to do everything that day with us probably like 10 feet away. So you want to find a photographer that you can click with real well. We click with each other, but that doesn't mean that a bride's going to click with us.
Very rarely do people not click with one of us because we are complete opposites. However, if you don't click with either of us and you want somebody that's a little quieter or somebody that...
Silent love, Captain.
Yes. Ashley and I are very bubbly, very fun, but there are some very chill photographers and that is perfect because might be what you need. If you're clicking with your photographer and there's somebody that you really, really mesh with and you meet and you love, then on wedding day, it's just gonna go that much. It's trusting. So if you click with us, most likely you trust us. If you don't click with your photographer, I'm sorry, but you're not going to trust them on your wedding day.
Oh no. Did she get my bouquet?
Get a picture of me walking down the aisle.
Did she get that ring on that flower over there that I wanted to? No. You do not want to think about that at all. Pictures, if you hire the right photographer, you're not gonna have pictures on your mind at all. Even though pictures were on your mind the entire time before the wedding.
You put a year's worth of work into it, don't even think about it anymore. It's all worth it now.
It's all worth it now. There you go. That's important.
If you trust your photographer, you're not gonna worry about the pictures on the day of the wedding.
Boom goes the dynamite.
So our 4th tip is your wedding album. You might not be thinking about a wedding album because you have Facebook, you have your online gallery. If your parents didn't have a wedding album, how would you see their wedding? Digital photo storage is constantly changing. I mean, right now we have the cloud. Before we had flash drives. Before that we had CDs.
Floppy disks.
Before that was floppy disks. I think we were giving out discs 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If you got your wedding pictures on a disc 3 years ago, if you go try to buy a new computer, that new computer does not come with a disk drive. It's eventually going to be obsolete just like the floppy disks. You can't read those anymore. Storage is just constantly changing, so we don't know in 5 or 10 years how you're gonna see your pictures. I mean, you can scramble probably for a way to like view them because right now they're in the cloud, so you can scramble to find a way, but it's so much easier just to have an album. It's like your first big major heirloom that you can pass on to your kids and your grandkids. Actually, just a couple of months ago, I looked at my grandmother's wedding album.
Aww.
And it's special to me, and it's something that we are going to have forever, those wedding pictures. And if you don't get your pictures printed or put in an album, somebody can't have that same moment that I had when I was looking at my grandmother's wedding album.
We're about to wrap this up. Our last 5 tip is your style in that photographer's style and the passion that that photographer brings to your day. If you want those candid, raw moments, find a photographer with that kind of style. If you want the more editorial and magazine style and more posy, that's just a really cool way to say it, and the more traditional, please go find that kind of photographer because there is a photographer for everyone. This is a saturated market. You just need to find the one that's going to suit your needs the best and has the style that you're actually wanting. So say your style is more moody and that kind of dark romantic.
Like emotion, like a lot of images that evoke a lot of emotion.
Yes, and shadows.
Let's say you have a really romantic vision of your day, like when you envision it, you see lots of light in in your dream. You see a lot of white and you see a lot of laughter and it's very organic and your dress is flowy. You need to find a photographer that can really capture that movement.
That shoots those kind of weddings.
You don't want to get that editorial dark moody when you're really wanting something bright, fun, almost wild, but not wild. Wild isn't the word. Like, free.
Yeah, that kind of makes a really good point. If you're not talking with your photographer though, and actually like expressing the way that you like envision something, they may take your day and completely make it a 360 and something completely different than you were even thinking about. Your photographer determines that.
You need to hire somebody whose work really shows the vision that you want. When you sit down and talk to them and you're kind of like interviewing them, you need to tell your vision, and you need to look at their portfolio and make sure that their portfolio matches up with your vision. If you love their portfolio, they're gonna be perfect for you. If you just think their portfolio is gorgeous but it's not your style, don't waste either of your time. But you wanna find somebody that your vision and their vision mesh. So right along with style and choosing somebody that fits your style, they also should have a lot of passion for what they do. It's your wedding photography. This is your wedding day. You need to choose a photographer that is passionate about weddings. It's not something that is like an afterthought for them. Like, oh, I kinda like photography, so I can shoot your wedding for like next to nothing. Like, you're never going to get this day back, so you need to pick somebody who loves love. You need to pick somebody who loves what they do. You need to pick somebody who is passionate and loves the challenge of an unpredictable wedding day, and somebody who really wants to tell your story for who you guys are.
Yep. I'm not kidding. Said it I could not have said it any better. You can feel passion with somebody. You can see that passion even though it's an internal thing. Like, oh my gosh, it's so important. It's so important. Oh my gosh, we did it, Ashley. So let's kind of recap everything, okay?
Wrapping up those 5 tips.
1, priorities. 2,
ways to make your photography budget stretch even farther to get the best of the best for your day.
3, personality. Trust. 4, albums.
5. Hold on, we just talked about it.
I know it.
Okay.
Passion and
Style.
it's getting dark outside. That means we have to go do other things. Guys, if this is your first time actually stumbling upon our YouTube channel, hit the subscribe button below. You will not be sorry, especially if you're newly engaged or a senior or just awesome.
Or if you just like to watch us ramble, because we ramble once a week every Monday. Real quick, the makeup that we used in the $20 makeup challenge video.
Don't do it.
My face was messed up.
Yeah, break out. Toodles.
Bye.
I don't know what we're doing.
I don't know. I'm pointing down.
I'm like
Down below.
just patting my drum.
Down
This drum that you, my bongo. I feel like it should be like this. This looks weird. What's up? Oh, this is what I get for not listening to words. I'm
slowly trying to transition into a middle part, but I realized when I left my house, it's kind of off center. But in the mirror, I swear it looks like it's in the middle. But when I see it, I'm like, that's not in the middle. But I'm working there. I'm working my way to the middle part.
Comment below and tell her that you love it. I want her to keep doing it. Take a copy.
For the camera. Oh, what the heck are you doing?
This is my jam. Oh my gosh, I love this song. Oh wait, squats.
Not like, bleh.